So it looks like we got a nice amount of people popping in. So I will get started. Today will be recorded. We're going to share it with all of you lovely people. So I'll do a quick intro. My name is Andrew Rosen, for those that don't know, president of Diversified. And we are excited today. We have Lindsay Rosen. She is a registered dietitian. I'll give a little brief on her in a moment. A couple of things of note and housekeeping. One is if yet we are taking questions, but just write it in and I'll proctor this and ask them as you have as they come up. Our intent is, as you've seen over the past year or two, we've made a shift to really recognizing that we care about, of course, our clients' finances. That's where we spend the bulk of our time, but it's really we look at it sort of the triangle of health, wealth, and happiness. And so where we can provide benefit or value to our clients in their sort of holistic life, we want to do so. And so this will be one of 3-part series. Today's focus is going to be on trendy foods that aren't worth your money and are. I think you have some that are, which is a cool topic. Lindsay is about as sharp as it gets in this space. And yes, I saw already a question. She is married to my middle brother and a lovely and fantastic human being and extremely knowledgeable.
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. So, and at the end of our series, we will be garnering interest if people want us to provide the service or help facilitate the service. We'd love to, again, offer as much to our clients and as much bang for the buck. So, all right, enough about this. I will get started. Our next one, for your record, is November 17th. Of course, emails will go out, but you can put it on the calendar, same time, same bad time, same bad place. So trendy foods that aren't worth your money. So in an attempt to healthier manage our weight and overall well-being, we often rely on word of mouth or social media to get nutrition recommendations. Since food trends are something and sometimes confusing, we have our lovely registered dietitian who's going to help decipher and educate us on this topic. So just a little background on Lindsay. Besides being married to my brother and a fantastic human being, she is highly educated. She is a registered dietitian, which I always joke is a higher designation than nutritionist. Most people don't realize that. She's the founder of Nutrition by Brew, a nutrition counseling and consultant practice in New York City, or New York. She provides individual nutrition counseling to children, adolescents, and adults on issues including weight management and preventive nutrition. During nutrition counseling, Lindsay uses an individualized approach that focuses on client-specific nutrition and medical needs. She got her Master's of Science in Nutrition Dietetics from NYU and has a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology from University of Pennsylvania, where she met my brother way back when. So I will stop there. She's got a lot more to her impressive resume and open it up to her because we're here to listen to you, Lindsay. So again, ask questions, just type them in and I'll proctor them. And the floor is yours, Lindsay. Blow our minds.
Thank you. Thank you for that intro, Andrew.
You're welcome.
All right. So as Andrew mentioned, oftentimes people hear about these buzzworthy or trendy foods, and I'm here to break down which ones are and are not worth your money so that all the work is done for you. All right, so. Putting up like the photos and stuff, the info?
Let's see, can you share, are you able to share your presentation?
Kelly or anyone throw that up, otherwise I could just start talking, but.
I can throw it up.
Sure, right. Sorry about that, thank you.
Great, thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
All right, so as you start to put that up, I'll just dive right into the first one. So one trendy food that is not worth your money, and Andrew, you're not gonna like this one, but it is cold pressed juices. So I happen to know that Andrew is a fan of juicing, but I'm gonna tell you that it's not worth your money, and I'll explain why. So when you juice something, just think about it. You're putting fruits and vegetables into a juicer and you're kind of just squeezing it to get all of that juice out. So you're taking these these fruits and vegetables that are filled with vitamins and minerals, and you're just extracting the juice. A lot of times, the fiber is extracted during the juicing process. So the fiber is the type of carbohydrate that is indigestible, and that's what's going to fill you up. So when you extract that, you're not getting those benefits. Obviously, a lot of times these juices are loaded with fruits, which are otherwise healthy, but you need a lot of fruit to sweeten these juices. So the sugar in these fruits are very high in carbohydrates, and you're probably imbibing a lot more carbohydrate than you intended to. A lot of these juices can contain anywhere from 25 to 30 or even more grams of carbohydrate per bottle. And my argument is just to eat these fruits and vegetables instead. So if, however, you do want a juice of some kind, I would encourage you to blend it instead. When you use a blender versus using a juicer, you're going to keep these fibers intact, and that's going to help to fill you up. So like it says here, I recommend eating these vegetables in their whole unprocessed form. That will give you all the fiber that you want. Otherwise, if you would like to drink it, put it in a shaker or smoothie and get all of that fiber.
All right, we got our first question, Lindsay, since
Sure.
you shattered my life. So can you let us know about your thoughts on the clean 15 and dirty dozen when buying organic? Is it worth the money to always buy organic, or worth sticking to the ones on the dirty dozen list?
Okay, so this is kind of a loaded question. So if you're just talking about nutritional value, then when it comes to a conventional banana versus an organic banana, they're identical in terms of nutrition. So calorie per calorie, carb per carb, the amount of sugar that's in each of them, they're going to be identical nutritionally speaking. What's different when you're talking about conventional versus organic is the way that these crops and fruits and vegetables are treated. So, the chemicals. So as this person asked, there is a list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And this basically tells you which ones you should or should not buy organic if you're looking to save your money. So that Dirty Dozen, those are the 12 dirtiest fruits and vegetables. And those are the ones that I would say, if you're going to buy anything organic, buy those. The Clean 15, these are the ones that are the cleanest, and this is where you should save your money. So yeah, that's my answer.
Good. No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the second trendy food that I would tell you to that is not worth your money is going to be gluten-free breads. So when it comes to gluten-free items and gluten-free breads in this case, the first question that I want to know is, why are you avoiding gluten? So is there a gluten allergy or an intolerance? If this is the case, then yes, this is when you should be consuming this product. But if you're just doing it because you heard that you should avoid gluten, or you're just trying to avoid gluten, then I just want to make sure that you're a little bit more educated than that. So that brings me to my second question. Do you even know what gluten is? So why are you avoiding it? And do you even know what it is? So gluten is a type of protein that provides elasticity in carbohydrate products. So when it comes to something like bread, like I just explained, the gluten provides the structure in that bread. If a bread naturally contains gluten and you take it out, you need to put something else in its place to keep the structure. Oftentimes, gluten-free breads are not healthier. A lot of times they're made from refined flours, processed starches, and could have added fats and sugar to make the texture and flavor more palatable. So if you are consuming a gluten-free bread, I would encourage you to read the ingredient list, know what ingredients are in there, and as well as the nutrition facts panel. You should be looking for things like whole grains, such as brown rice, quinoa, oats, and make sure that there are no added sugars. So ultimately what I'm trying to drill in here is that you should know why you're eating something and understand what's in it.
Makes sense. So gluten is not necessarily bad for you unless you have an intolerance or
Exactly. If you cannot eat gluten for some medical reason, then I'm definitely not telling you to eat it. But if you're just avoiding it, then you should really load up on things that are naturally gluten-free. So like I mentioned here, things like brown rice, quinoa, oats, corn, these are grains that are naturally gluten-free. But if you're looking, so if you're going to eat like a brown rice bread, that's okay because that's naturally gluten-free. But if you're having a bread that is modified and then made gluten-free, they're adding other things to it to make it taste good and to make the structure the same. So oftentimes they need to add fat or sugar, things like that to make it taste good.
So is there a bread you recommend?
I don't consume gluten-free products. I don't have a reason to. So, but I would just say like any bread that's naturally gluten-free. I can't think of one offhand, but just something that's made with just things like quinoa, oats, brown rice, corn, millet.
Sounds delicious. All right.
All right. So the third trendy food that I would tell you to save your money on is matcha lattes. So I'm going to clarify here that I'm not talking about just matcha, but I'm talking about matcha lattes. So matcha is an antioxidant rich superfood. And I would tell you in this case to drink it plain versus in a sugar laden beverage. So when we take matcha, which comes from a green tea leaf, and we drink it in this fancy latte, it's very high in sugar. It's also very pricey. It can range anywhere from $5 to $8 per cup and sometimes even more. And it's also very high calorie. So a 12-ounce non-fat matcha latte from a popular coffee chain that we all know is 140 calories and 24 grams of sugar. You'll notice that I told you that this matcha latte, this 12-ounce matcha latte, is non-fat. So notice here that non-fat does not equal low calorie, low sugar, or healthy. Matcha alone, however, is unsweetened. There's no sugar, there's no calories. So I would encourage you to use and consume matcha mixed with just plain hot water, unsweetened almond milk, maybe a little bit of stevia to sweeten it up if you wanted, but not in the latte form.
Okay. Well, I think you're going to get to this, but there's a question about, do you recommend alternative milks, oat versus almond? I think that you're going to get to that in a moment, aren't you?
Yes, as I tell you about a trendy food that I would tell you to invest in.
All right. Well,
we'll save that one.
Won't ruin the big finale.
Sure. Okay, so now we're gonna dive into some trendy foods that I think you should spend on. So the first one is kale chips. So what are kale chips? So kale chips are chips that are made out of kale, which is a leafy green vegetable. So kale is naturally low in calories, fat, and sodium, and naturally high in vitamins and minerals. My tip here, however, is to make these chips yourself. So you can take some kale or baby kale, chop it up, mix it with a little bit of olive oil and some spices like garlic powder, cayenne, paprika, salt and pepper, and just bake it in the oven. Where I want to make an exception and tell you to save your money would be for the pre-packaged varieties of the kale chips. So make it yourself, don't buy it. These ones that are sold in stores are often higher in fat and sodium. They use more oils. They don't necessarily use the heart healthy oils. So again, just make it yourself.
Okay, so let's say you don't have an oven, for instance.
Okay.
Because it's back ordered and off the coast.
Yeah. Got it.
Is there a brand you would recommend buying that is? I mean, there's a lot of places that do make. I would think. Is there one that you recommend?
Offhand, I know the brand Brad's. They make a kale chip that's pretty good, but I'm trying to think. You know, some of the ones like I've seen them at Trader Joe's, for example, or they make other roasted vegetables, and they tend to use a lot more oil, a lot more salt than you'd probably use at home, and they sometimes use like canola oil and some less heart healthy oils.
Got it. Okay. And maybe if you wouldn't mind, send them to us, to Kelly, in case anyone asks for a good recipe for this. That would be awesome.
Sure. I mean, just an easy recipe offhand would be, like I said, to take a bag or a bunch of either kale or baby kale, I happen to like the baby kale better. It's a little bit easier to eat and less bitter. And you basically just chop it up, mix it with a little bit of olive oil or coconut oil spray. You really can't go wrong with the proportions that you use, and then just throw whatever spices you like on there. So that could be just salt and pepper, some garlic powder, cayenne pepper if you like a little bit spicy, paprika.
Okay.
But
Awesome.
you really can't go wrong.
Awesome.
Okay, so that brings us to our second trendy food that is worth your money, and that was going to be coconut water. So what is coconut water? It is the clear liquid that's found inside of a young green coconut. It naturally has a sweet, somewhat nutty taste, and it's often referred to as Mother Nature's sports drink. So as opposed to some other sports drinks that are on the market, coconut water is going to be a lot less sugar and sodium. It's also higher in potassium, calcium, and chloride. And it is great for rehydrating and replenishing your body's energy levels after any type of physical activity. When it comes to coconut water, if you're going to buy one of the packaged ones, I would say to stick to the plain flavor, avoid any of those flavored ones because they have added sugars and added juices.
Okay. Again, is there a brand you go to?
It really doesn't matter the brand. I would just say when looking at the ingredients, because this is really when it comes down to knowing what's in your food. So just look at the nutrition label and underneath where it says ingredients, and it should just say coconut water. It shouldn't have any added sugars in it.
Right. And that's the key for a lot of, I've spoken to you in the past, and seems that's the key for most foods when you buy. You want whole grains, and you want one ingredient. You don't want a bunch of stuff you can't pronounce in there.
Exactly. All right, so bring us to the third food that is worth your money, and that's going to be almond butter. So almond butter is a food paste, and that's similar in texture to peanut butter, but it's made from almonds instead of peanuts. It's a great alternative to peanut butter for those that cannot eat or do not like peanuts. It also contains significantly more fiber, calcium, potassium, iron, and manganese than peanut butter, with about half the amount of saturated fat. And similar to what I just told you about the coconut water, you just want to make sure that there is little to no added ingredients. So again, when looking at the label, just make sure that there's almonds and maybe salt if you want it to be salted. So that could be raw almonds, roasted almonds, and maybe a little bit of salt. And yeah, I mean, you can enjoy it on fresh fruit, whole grain crackers, on a sandwich.
Right.
However you like it.
Now, like we've bought Justin's in the past. Is that a reputable brand that fits your sort of healthy criteria?
It is. So, when it comes to Justin's, there are some flavored varieties. So again, looking at that label, because, if you're just having the plain almond butter versus they make like a maple one, a honey one, different flavors, vanilla almond butter, I know they make. So again, you just want to look at the ingredients. When you're buying, whether it's peanut butter, almond butter, any type of nut butter for that matter, you just want there to be that nut and maybe a little bit of salt. You don't want there to be any added sugars, and you don't want there to be any added oils. So like palm oil, for example, is often found in a lot of nut butters. So, these nuts, they're naturally high in fat. So you don't need any added oil. And now that you bring it up, like a really good way, aside from looking at the ingredient list, a great way to know what's in it. So this is often off-putting for people, but when you're looking at your nut butter and you're looking at a new jar and you see that jar and at the top is oil, that means that the oils they rose to the top, and you really need to mix that back in. So that usually tells you that there's just that nut in the product and no added oils. And with that extra oil that's on top, you really want to stir it back in rather than pouring it out. I know a lot of times people will just open it and there's like this oil in there and you really just want to pour it out. But if you do throw it out, it will be very difficult to spread the nut butter later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's
And I
very-
know there's a couple supermarkets, even like Whole Foods, where can't you go in and just literally
Yes.
make it there? And I would
Exactly.
imagine
That's my
Yes.
favorite.
right. I would think so.
Yeah.
Awesome. Plug for Whole Foods because I think Amazon needs more business.
Yeah, I think a lot of other grocery stores, some of them, they have those machines and stuff, but again, you see what's in that machine and it's just the peanuts or just the almonds, and
Sure.
you are literally pressing the button and grinding it yourself, so you know what's in there.
Right.
All right, so the food number 4 that I would say to invest your money on is going to be chia seeds. So in case you are unsure, chia seeds are in fact the seeds from the 1980 Chia Pets. They are filled with vitamins, calcium, fiber, and they actually congeal in water. So when they're exposed to water, when these little seeds are exposed to water, they actually form a gel, and that expands in your stomach, which helps to keep you full, eat less, and even lose weight. The interesting thing about chia seeds is they're virtually tasteless. So they're very, very versatile. You can add them to lots of different foods and you won't even taste it, and it won't change the texture at all. One thing that you might notice is that it's going to give a little bit of a crunch to whatever food because, it's the seed.
Okay. All right. Now, so you're telling me the way to get chia seeds is you have to grow chia pets. There's chia pets growing all over the country, and that's where they get the seeds.
I mean, it comes from there. So, if you can locate a chia pet, definitely go for it. But otherwise, you can go to really any supermarket and just buy a package of chia seeds yourself.
Got it. All right. So we got 2 questions for you.
Yes.
One on chia seeds,
Sure.
which is that, let's see, it says, I read that chia seeds can lower blood pressure. If you already have normal to low blood pressure, is it dangerous to eat these?
No, not dangerous.
Okay. There you go. And thoughts on flax seeds, since we're on the seed.
Sure. So flax seeds are another great seed that are very heart healthy, high in heart healthy fats, high in fiber, provide a lot of different vitamins and minerals. The one thing that I do want to mention about flaxseed, though, when purchasing them, you want to buy ground flaxseed, not the ones that are in the shell. So you're not going to get as much benefit of the ones that are in the shell. So the ground flaxseed is the one that you want to look for.
Okay. And also on back to chia seeds, grind them up in a spice grinder, eat whole. Does it matter nutritionally, or as long as it gets
You don't have to grind up the chia seeds.
Okay.
But for the flax seeds, yes, you can either buy the flax seeds ground up or you can grind it yourself. I've seen people do it in a coffee grinder, and that works too.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, so the next food that is worth your money is going to be Greek yogurt. So when you think of yogurt, Greek yogurt is actually, so you take that yogurt and you strain it and you keep all the whey, which is where all of the protein is. So Greek yogurt, therefore, has a much thicker texture than traditional yogurt, and it contains almost double the amount of protein that's in regular yogurt because, like I just said, you're keeping that whey, which is where all the protein is. Similar to regular yogurt, Greek yogurt is very high in calcium as well. Greek yogurt is actually one of my favorite foods. I think it's very versatile. You can eat it with fruit and cereal at breakfast. You can blend it into a smoothie for a snack. You can add it to dressing to make, salad dressing at dinner time. You can mix it with different seasonings like garlic, dill, parsley to create dips. You can use it in place of sour cream on tacos or baked potatoes. So it's obviously very, very versatile. The key thing here, again, is to stick to the plain varieties to decrease your sugar intake. So rather than buying the peach Greek yogurt, I would say add your own fruit to it and just stick to the plain variety.
It's a good suggestion. Right.
Okay, so moving on to the last trendy food that is worth your money, and that's going to be almond milk. So almond milk is a beverage that's made from ground almonds. It is a substitute for dairy or cow's milk. So it's therefore suitable for vegans and vegetarians. When it is unsweetened, it's very low in calories and sugar. It's about 40 calories per serving and less than 2 grams of carbohydrate per serving when unsweetened. So it's a great substitute for people that are looking to manage their weight as well. And again, my key tip here is going to be to opt for the unsweetened varieties. So I know there was a question about different dairy-free milk alternatives with regards to, almond milk, soy milk, oat milk. So, the tip here is really going to be the varieties that are unsweetened. So you don't want any added sugars in these milks. If you're looking at, dairy-free milk versus regular cow's milk, whether that's skim milk, 1%, 2% whole milk, the dairy milk is going to be a lot higher in calcium and it is going to be higher in protein, but these dairy-free alternatives are going to be a lot lighter, a lot lower in calories, and they just provide different nutrients.
Okay. Now, a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Is all Greek yogurt lactose, or is there almond milk Greek yogurt?
So some companies I've noticed now make lactose-free Greek yogurts. My personal favorite brand of Greek yogurt that I've been eating for at least 10, 15 years is Acai. I just really like the texture of it. I like the flavor. And more recently, they've made a lactose-free variety. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you're looking to have, like you mentioned, a yogurt that's made from maybe coconut milk or almond milk or whatever it is, some of them are now making Greek style dairy-free yogurts.
Got it. Interesting. Here's one for you.
Sure.
Many oat milk brands have gums, etc. added.
Yeah.
Are there any? Oh, we lost it. Are there any that are acceptable in store-bought brands?
So I'm not sure like which grocery stores you personally shop at or where you're looking. I don't really buy oat milk for my house, for example, but any dairy-free milk, you're just, again, like everything else, you just really need to look at the label and see, are there added gums or fillers? The easiest option would be to make this yourself, to mix, whether it's the oats or the almonds, whatever it is, you just mix it with water and maybe a little bit of vanilla bean, something like that to sweeten it naturally. And then I guess you have to strain it as well. That is a lot of work. And obviously it's not going to stay as long. So it really depends on how often you're consuming this beverage and if you're going to want to put in the time and energy to make it yourself. And then that there's no fillers.
Makes sense. Okay, last question for you to
Sure.
stay on time for everyone during their lunch break. Acai. It's known as one of these superfoods, right?
Sure.
Good for you, bad for you. And I like the acai bowls, and I'm a big fan personally, but I've heard they're high in sugar. I've heard mixed things on them.
Mm-hmm.
Educate us.
Okay, so acai is a superfood. It has a lot of nutrients as far as vitamins and minerals, but like you just mentioned, it could be very high in sugar depending on if you're using sweetened versus unsweetened acai. So let's assume that you're making it at home. So I would say to use acai that is unsweetened and to mix it with things like maybe a little bit of fruit, a little bit of unsweetened almond milk or unsweetened dairy-free milk, skim milk, water, whatever you like. But ultimately just making sure that all of the ingredients that you're using are not too high in sugar. Of course, you're going to put a little bit of fruit in there, maybe put some fruit for toppings. The issue with acai bowls is first when you're using a sweetened acai, second when there's too much added fruit in there, and then also looking at the toppings that either you or a store puts on it. So a lot of times they will use that sweetened acai. They will add a lot of fruit when blending up your bowl, and then they'll add even more fruit on top. They'll also add a lot of peanut butter, more than you would probably put yourself. Sugar sweetened, like, what is it, dried coconut chips or coconut shreds.
Yeah.
They tend to use the sweetened ones. And then they also tend to use a lot of granola, which again is sugar laden.
Got it. Well, this was awesome, Lindsay.
Thank you.
I want to take a moment to thank you. I know, as I stated, for those that missed it, we have this is part one of a 3-part series. The other 2 will be different nutritional topics for everyone, because we do care about your health, wealth, and happiness here. November 17th, mark it on your calendar. We will share this around. Anyone wants any recipes or anything on anything you heard or suggestions, feel free to email us and we can get it from Lindsay. And we are hoping that this can grow into a benefit for our clients. So also reach out if you are thinking about engaging in something like this, and we can talk about ways to help you and assist in this journey that we're all on. So thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll see you real soon.
Perfect.
All right. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.